Hello everybody and welcome to my long anticipated review of the MEEPO 30-inch V2.
To fold like a diamond from gold. Maybe you are.
Just before we start, I want to get a couple of things out the way, and the first one being that this is definitely not the best electric skateboard, but I still love it out of all of the other electric skateboards, but I'll explain that at the end. First, I want to talk about the design of the board. So if we look at the board over here, you can see the little handle at the top. It's really quite short. I don't know why they have those cutouts out of there, and you can see they've got cutouts for the trucks at the front. Now, it's actually really high, which seems like a bit of a disadvantage, but it's actually quite great because it's capable of cruising over quite large stones quite easily. I'm still yet to fall off this thing, and it's actually quite well balanced. The trucks are a little bit high, and you do need them quite loose to get those good turning angles, which it is really great at doing. But the one problem that I do find is that at higher speeds, this thing does tend to try and give a bit of a speed wobble, especially because you have to loosen the trucks to get that good maneuverability out of it. Other part of the design is that it's actually a perfect height if you're 6 foot. I'm 6 foot or 183 centimeters, and it's actually really comfortable to carry. Just because the handle's the right height. If you do have, if you are climbing a few stairs, you do have to lift a little bit. And if you are standing, it does fit between your legs perfectly, especially if you're on the subway, you need to balance it a little bit. The other thing that's actually quite interesting about this board is the maneuverability is really good. These new shredded trucks on the board itself, they're quite high compared to other boards, at least that's what it feels like, but that may also be to the 90mm wheels. It is very maneuverable, you can quite easily navigate around. The kicktail doesn't actually add that much value because the board is so high, you cannot lift the front comfortably and move from side to side. A couple of people ask me if it feels flimsy. It does not, but because the board is black, I am finding that you get a lot of dents on the kicktail, which makes it really not look that nice. Like the color of the board isn't that good because it just chips away. But truck maneuverability, great. Kicktail maneuverability, yeah, you can get around tighter corners and stuff like that, but if you've got your foot on the kicktail and you accelerate, it is deadly fast. Like, the thing will just put you on your ass, you will fall off this thing. So if I just show you quickly, this is how you have to stand on the board. If you're standing like this and you accelerate, the front will lift because the accelerator just puts you off balance. Because the board's a lot shorter and the MEEPO remote, I'll get to that a little bit later, is very sharp, you do wind up getting thrown off a little bit. But once you get used to this board, it's actually quite easy. Like, my feet never connect, even though it's pretty much off the board on that side and that side. It still works perfectly fine. Here's the kicker with the board where some things do become an issue with its size, and that is that this thing is so damn fast and the remote is very sketchy. So you get used to it after a while, but if you're a beginner, it's going to take you a bit of time and it is a bit terrifying. The acceleration is very sharp and the brakes are very sharp, at least on this one. Apparently I've seen videos where they fix it, where they're busy fixing it on the later boards, but this one, it's very, very, very sharp when you accelerate. So it takes a bit of time to get your balance and learn how to do that properly. Then the other thing is that because it's shorter, you don't have that spread that you normally do on a longer board. Now, this makes it a bit of a pain in the ass, especially when you're trying to get around and, you know, just riding the board comfortably. It does make it a bit terrifying and you are a bit scared to tap the remote. The other thing is that its top speed is terribly fast. This thing, I've never actually tested its top speed and I actually have no plan on ever doing so because this thing is just so damn crazy. When I do get up to a speed, like to the higher speeds, because the board is shorter and you have to make the trucks a bit looser to get that extra maneuverability, you do wind up getting some speed wobbles that are a bit terrifying. And then because the brakes are really sharp as well, you're too scared to touch the things because you're scared you just might fly off. But I still like the board and I still wouldn't trade it for any of the others. Now for the part that the board really, really shines, and that is that it is amazingly portable. If you are as tall as I am, it is perfect. When you're standing straight, the board's off the ground, it doesn't touch. When you're climbing a few stairs, yeah, you gotta lift a little bit, it's not a big deal. It is really, really portable, which makes it easy. It fits in between your legs. If I'm standing on the subway, if I'm standing on a bus, it's really easy to put there. It fits in most of my cupboards, like not small cupboards, but like, you know, dresser cupboards. It fits at the bottom, it's out of the way. Longboards, yeah, they're more comfortable to ride, which does make it a bit easier to have sort of that surfing, carving sort of a feeling. But if you want to get from point A to point B, this is actually really efficient. My e-bike you can't take on the subway. Scooters, you can take them on the subway, but they are in people's way. And if it's really, really busy, it's really hard to get on the train or the bus, and sometimes bus drivers actually don't think you allow you to take scooters on. Whereas the electric skateboards, you just carry it on, it doesn't go through the metal detector scanners at the subway as well. It's actually a really awesome form of transport if you're just trying to get you know, personal transport between public transport, because I'll find like, yeah, the subway's great and all, but I really don't want to walk 2 kilometers after that, which is where this thing shines. If you want really small, compact, convenient, portable transport to do short distances, this thing is fantastic. And now for the last part. The board really has great battery life. I find I can get about 20 kilometers, but where I'm riding, there are lots of flat surfaces, which does make, you know, it does make it travel a bit further. I've never gone up a hill as well and had it not cruise up quite happily, actually. Obviously, I'm not doing like 45-degree inclines, but, you know, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, it does it quite happily. Little bumps, it cruises over. And I've never actually run out of battery before, but it is one of my worst fears of having to like push this thing home. It is possible and it does roll quite comfortably, but yeah, it hasn't done it to me yet, but I have pushed it quite far. I've pushed it to 20 kilometers and then it was like just on its last legs, but I never had battery sag. It always seems to just go. It does slow down a bit, but you still get that initial acceleration that is a bit terrifying. Also, this remote is really, really great. You got 4 different power savings. I think it's like beginner, amateur, professional, and expert. On beginner, it's really, really slow and it's a bit jittery. Like you actually don't get a wider degree of, let's say, variance between your speed. So it still feels the same and it feels a bit kicky. that if you press the button, it'll get nothing, whack, and then it flies. So I find if you start on amateur and get used to it there and then move on to professional, expert is just psycho. The board, I think, is too short to have an expert level. Like, some people may do it, but I need the maneuverability, so I'm not making my trucks tight enough to go those sort of speeds. The brakes seem to be the same all the way through. I don't find that big of a difference. Yeah. So my final conclusion with this board would have to be that it is a bad electric skateboard. It's not the worst, it's not the best, it's just bad. It's not good at what it does. But as a form of transport from point A to point B that's small, not too heavy, and convenient, it is possibly the best board that I've seen. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my review of the MEEPO 30-inch V2. And remember, folks, if you are stuck in a rut, try something new, fix something old, change something now. Cheers, bye.